Hi everybody, you're listening to the Khandaan podcast by the You Podcast team, a bi-weekly podcast revisiting the movies of Amir Khan, Salman Khan and Shah Rukh Khan.
Every show we pick a random year from 3 decades of collectively 300 films the Khans have done and let our listeners vote which movie we should talk about. So it's entirely up to you.
Pick a team, make a vote, take us down nostalgia lane, punish us, or make us reassess a movie we dismissed.
We love the Khans, most of us, sometimes. And we would love for you all to be part of our Khandaan, because when it comes to the Khans in Bollywood, nothing else really matters.
So Asim, while you've been away from Twitter, we all started discussing things, and basically the upshot is now you must watch a Manoj Kumar movie called Wo Kaun Thi.
वो किसने recommend करी?
It is actually your own fault because it's actually a listener. I can't remember their name. Let me just look it up. But they were listening to episode 66 where you were talking about watching all these
old-ass movies.
Yeah. And they were like, you know what Asim would like? It's Wo Kaun Thi. And actually, this is like an older Vikas Deshpande. Yeah. So shout out
Vikas,
to Vikas.
You can't hold me to whatever I say weeks ago, right? We're in a pandemic here. Words have no meaning. I just say stuff. You can't come back to me and then tell me to do things. No. I'm going to add it. I saw that it's available on Prime, and maybe we should do this more, work on recommendations and also kind of come out of our Khan prism that we've locked ourselves in. We've painted ourselves into the corner. So I'm happy for the suggestion. If it is a terrible movie, I will come and find you, Vikas.
And also Matt from Bollywood is for Lovers has also seen this film, and he also recommends it. He said he really loved it. Your only support, Asim, was from Beth, who said friends don't let friends watch Manoj Kumar. But this is an older Manoj Kumar movie before he became the full face palm, so maybe you'll enjoy it.
I don't think I've ever seen a Manoj Kumar movie.
Lucky you.
What will convince you, though, that this movie has Lag Ja Gale in the soundtrack, so...
Okay.
Asim does not care.
I will have to wait for Justin Rao to edit it on a Anushka Sharma video to know what that is.
Yeah. But hey, Asim, guess what?
Yeah.
This week, I saw something new.
What? खुशियों का दिन आया है जो मांगा वो पाया है. What?
After an entire 8 months of me not watching anything current, I actually watched something that is...
What happened this week?
She finally surrendered her Turkish passport.
Yeah, what happened? There has to be some catalyst why you made the decision.
Well,
what was how did this happen?
No, it was because you were saying that you and Isa were watching PPK and that you had such a good time watching it and everything. So I was like, yeah, I should watch it. And also, I am not exactly sure how to pronounce it. So I've said this before, I understand Tamil, but I cannot pronounce Tamil to save my life. I don't speak it at all. So I think the way he pronounces it is Puthum Pudhai Kaalai, I think it's what it's called. But
I was watching this movie and I was going to tweet about it and saying, I'm enjoying this movie and I will be unable to pronounce it ever in my life or even remember what it's called. So I'm glad you gave it a shot and I did not.
I had to give it a shot because I actually went online to find out how to say it properly because I didn't want to embarrass myself. And the only person that I could find who was actually saying the title of the movie was Rajiv Masand. And I was like, there is no way in hell I'm going to let Rajiv Masand get away with saying it. And my honor as a South Indian is at stake. So I must say this. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, man. Like, I have tons to say about that one. But apart from that, yes, again, I'm watching Turkish dramas. I will never give those up. I will watch them forever.
What about you, Sujoy? What have you been watching this week?
I continued my streak of watching Schitt's Creek, and I've made it through season 1 now. I've started season 2, and it's really improving. I'm enjoying spending time with these characters now. I get the nuances, I get their motivation, and Alexis was really annoying at the beginning, but I'm growing to her, now.
Yeah. I had the same thing. I felt they were all quite mean at the start. Like, I didn't want to hang out with these people.
Yeah.
And after a while, it's like they all kind of settle in. And then, I mean, has Patrick shown up yet or not yet?
No,
that's season 3.
Yet. I don't think so.
Okay, so I think as Patrick shows up, it's just like a injection of emotion and heart, and you just fall in love with this guy.
Yeah. And apart from that, I finished watching Mirzapur season 2, which we will talk about, I guess.
Okay, good.
Did anybody watch Mirzapur season 1 or 2?
No. Baby steps, Sujoy. Baby steps.
Okay. Obviously our main review is Bazigar. No, it's not Bazigar. It's Looking at the wrong notes.
I love that you have notes for Trimurti. Yeah, like what?
I honestly was going to give up. Like, I was like, what's the point? Like, why am I doing notes? Like, why am I... Like, clearly the filmmakers didn't have any notes. Why am I putting in more effort?
Yeah.
But that's going to be for next episode. This episode is like Ghar Ka Mahal. We're just, catching up with each other and seeing what's happening and what we've been watching. And then next week we'll get into Trimurti, which I think we'll have lots to say about. But let's get the show started, yeah? I also, by the way, nobody watched the Borat movie?
I did.
Oh, Amrita, you didn't?
No.
You're not a Borat fan?
I like the first movie, but I don't feel like I'm going to laugh at it right now because it has a whole bunch of people that I loathe in it. I don't particularly want to see Rudy Giuliani with his hands down his pants. So I'm just not, I'm not in the mood for it.
Right. What did you think, Sujoy?
My initial thought was it isn't as funny as the original, but I don't think it's going for that. It's got quite a few really punching. It's got really strong political undertones, more than the original, I would say. I think with the world that we are living in, fact is stranger than fiction in a way. And so Borat has to... I think we have moved way past how things were perceived when the first Borat came out. And I was quite... cautiously optimistic about how this one's going to turn out and how the humor of the first one, the crass humor of the first one, is going to be perceived. And I think he managed to pull it off, and more so because this entire thing was shot under the whole lockdown when after the pandemic started. So it's interesting what the things that this movie has managed to say in the way that it has managed to do it.
There was I actually really enjoyed Borat 2 more than I thought I would. I do think there's quite a bit of difference between Borat 1 and Borat 2, but I think, like you said, we're in a different world. Lots has happened since then. And I think the intention of the movie is different. The problem I kind of have, and Amrita, I don't know if I sent you this a while ago, but there was a podcast by Malcolm Gladwell talking about the satire paradox.
No.
Do you remember? Oh, okay. So it basically discusses how ineffective satire is in a sense to make any change, really. And he was kind of giving the example of Stephen Colbert when he was, being the Stephen Colbert of back in the day, like he was, satirizing Republicans. Mm-hmm. And he ended up giving the speech to Bush's White House, what's it called? The
White House Correspondents' Dinner?
That's the one, yeah. I think they've cancelled that now, and Bush was laughing. He was laughing. He was in on the joke, and they were also giving the example of Tina Fey when she was doing Sarah Palin, and then Sarah Palin, it just kind of co-opted that, and it made her more popular than it needed to be. And also, I was watching the David Letterman interview with Dave Chappelle, and he also kind of mentioned that he was playing kind of this blackface character, and one of the cameramen or the staff people was laughing in a weird way. There was something in the laugh that he started wondering, what are you laughing at? And I think that's kind of the problem I have with Borat too, that the people that it actually makes fun of, they'll just listen to my wife and the weird accent and the foreign part, and they will not get the larger point that the satire is trying to make. Mm-hmm. So then it kind of becomes useless because we are already making fun of these people. We already think Rudy Giuliani is an idiot. So what are we actually changing? And that podcast or that idea of the satire paradox is really kind of ingrained in my brain, that as a tool for humor for change, which satire is supposed to be, in our world it's lost all meaning. And I think that's kind of the problem I was having more with Borat than anything else. I did laugh, but I also felt it's all kind of a bit useless. It has no point at this point. I mean,
we are already so segregated. We all choose to live in our, comfortable echo chambers where we discuss ideas that agree with us. And even I would say I'm not necessarily going to willingly sit down and discuss, have a long ass discussion with somebody from the right wing and their ideas of what makes them believe in what they believe in and all of that, because I want to preserve my own sanity in times like these. And that's why I don't think the world, although I would like to believe that there is some sort of a ray of hope, but again, people have already made up their minds about what they want to believe in, and hence Borat is not going to bring that change.
Mm.
Yeah.
But is he trying to do that though? Is that one of his aims?
I think so.
Yeah, I think in this one he is.
There's feminism, there's pro-life versus abortions, there's a lot of things that it's even going to, show that even the redneck right-wing pro-Trump people have a softer, generous, sort of characteristics in them, and they are even going out of their way to give this foreign national a house to live in the middle of the pandemic. It's a
weird one. I did laugh, and I think I wanted to laugh and all that, so I think that's what I appreciated more than anything.
I think this is just a very strange time for comedy. It's not even satire, because what you're talking about, satire and its ability to be taken as straight-faced by the people it tries to skewer. I mean, that's not something that is, indicative of our present circumstances. I think that goes back all the way to the most famous example, which is when Jonathan Swift wrote his solution to the Irish problem, which was Ireland is having a famine, so maybe they should just eat their own children. And there were people out back then who thought that, he was being serious and that was a good solution and they should try eating their children. So it's not like, it's not just satire though. It's all kinds of comedy, which I've seen it with Dave Chappelle. I've seen it, you're telling me about Borat, but we've seen it with not Kimmel, what's his face, Fallon. And we've seen it with John Oliver and Stephen Colbert, who are also, trying to deal with extraordinary times and trying to understand what it means to make fun of certain things and who we can make fun of. SNL has been in the crosshairs quite a bit because Colin Yost and Michael Shea have like no idea what the hell they're doing. And it's just a very strange time for comedy, I think, in general. And also with like all the discourse out there about like what is politically correct, what is discriminatory, who do we punch down, who do we punch up. Borat as a character is always going to be controversial. He was controversial back when the first movie came out, and he's going to be controversial now. And I've seen a few takes on my Twitter timeline. I haven't been on Twitter as much of late. I think all three of us have been on a bit of a Twitter break, Asim more than Sujoy and myself, but even we haven't been there too much because it's just getting a little too much. And I think that's basically indicative of like what's happening with Borat, everything is a little too much.
It's a weird time, and I think it's a weird time for comedy, and it's surprising how good we're at it. We're good at comedy. This is the only place people can still laugh and feel safe. Otherwise, everything else is shit.
That's right.
Not to brag.
Shall we read some emails? Actually, I was just going through it. We got a few from our listeners. Shall we do that?
Yeah,
go for it.
The first email is from Irfan. I won't read out full names because, internet is not a safe place. But Irfan writes us, hi Asim, I think you guys should talk about a couple of topics. One is about Khan's gossips over the year. Another one would be talking about actors or actresses that you would like to see work together in the future, like Salman or Vidya, SRK and Jacqueline. Lastly, I thought talking about the Khans who they worked with the best, like Salman and Sanjay, or Amir and Ajay, or SRK and Jackie. P.S. I love the podcast so much. I have listened to each one multiple times. That's great to hear, Irfan. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And I think everybody should do like Irfan and listen to every podcast multiple times. What do you guys think? Like, is there any big gossips that have come out that you really want to talk about that we've not talked about yet? I think we're quite dirty about the gossip, right? We get into it as much as we can. Anything that we've...
This year has been death for gossip, Irfan. Like, there's just nothing that has dominated the headlines as much as the Sushant Singh Rajput suicide and all the dirt that was heaped on Bollywood in the weeks since. So we're taking a bit of a break from that side of things just because it's distressing. It's not particularly funny or interesting. It's just sad and disgusting. But we do a lot of vintage gossip, nah? Like when we're talking about like movies from before and stuff, we talk about stuff that happened at the time.
I think we will have more gossip to talk about TRIMURTI than the actual movie itself. Get on talking about it, yeah.
Yeah. So stay tuned, Irfan, for the TRIMURTI episode, I guess.
I did find this old, I think I sent it even to you guys, this old... video interviews that wasn't Lehre, it was something else. I think it's ITBM News or something like that. And they have a ton of content and old interviews with these stars from the 90s and 80s. And it's quite interesting to see. Like, it also has that classic interview of Salman where he's totally drunk and is wearing like a cowboy hat.
What?
Do you know? Yeah. You must have seen that one. It's kind of famous one, a notorious one. Let's say. The channel is called ITMB Shows. It's quite small. They don't have that much of a following, but they have a ton of great interviews on there. So I've been watching a bit of that, and it's funny because they're interviewing, for example, Amitabh on the set of Sharabi. So already, you know, it's quite old, and they're like asking, yeah, aap nayi ladkiyon ke saath kaam kar rahe hain? And yeah, and they go like, yeah, nayi ladki South ki Sri Devi and Jaya Prada. I was like, how old are these videos? Like Sri Devi and Jaya Prada were nayi ladkiyan, you know. So it's I'm quite having fun with that. Not that there's necessarily a lot of gossip, but it just feels like we're going back to a time where, you know, it just seemed a lot more intimate and respectful, I must say, those interviews. It's quite fun. I'll add it to the show notes. Yeah, any actors that you would like to see the Khans work with? Actually, I was listening to the Tolly Folly podcast, which is a nice little podcast that I sometimes listen to. The hosts are a bit shady, but the topics are quite interesting. But yeah, you guys were talking about Diwakar Banerjee working with SRK, which I thought was an interesting idea. So.
You know, we talk quite a bit about Tabu and Shah Rukh working together, but I wonder if Tabu and Amir together, you know, like what would that look like?
As mother and son?
What? Why would Tabu?
It's a short joke, get it?
Okay.
No, but like I think like they would have some cracker chemistry also.
Like a courtroom drama, I would like to see, like, and Amir being the evil, corrupt prosecutor or something, you know.
Man, you guys are so highbrow, man. I just want to see Salman with charisma. That's what I want to see.
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
Diwakar Banerjee, courtroom drama with Tabbo. That's why these movies don't get made, man. You need to have no expectations like me. Charisma, Salman, done. You know,
David Dhawan.
Get it directed by Anis Bazmi or something like that.
No,
you know?
David Dhawan.
Yeah. Although I'm really looking forward to Kuli #1, man. Really excited for that.
I don't know why we don't see like Karishma in like some of these things, because she looks amazing. Like, have you seen her Insta? Like she looks like she, you know, like basically what she looked like in the early 2000s. Like she hasn't changed at all. I don't know why she can't be a leading actor. I mean, I know why, but still.
Amrita, I have to do a confession here.
Yeah.
We all have a Khandaan group, right? We chat with each other. But then me and Sujoy have a separate group where we want to be like, when we just want to do ladke wale things, we send each other photos of Karisma Kapoor to each other.
That is so not true.
So this happens. So yes, we are very much aware of Karisma Kapoor Instagram page.
Sujoy की नाक कटा दी.
यार सड़ेगा मेरे
Call the public में. I'm being the Justin Rao.
What is happening here?
This is what happens when you have no guests, man.
They just rat each other out.
Yeah. Okay. Sujoy, anyone else that you want the Khans to collaborate with?
I don't know. I don't give a shit. करना है जो करो तुम. पनवेल से निकलो, फार्म से निकलो, शूटिंग करो, खत्म करो. हमें रिलीज करो, हम देख लेंगे.
कुछ भी देख लेंगे.
अपन अभी मिर्जापुर सीजन 2 देख रहे हैं. कुछ भी देख लेंगे. खान लोग तुम बनाओ.
I'll move on to the next email. One from Paridhi in Dubai. I'm not going to read the full name, and I'm also not going to read the full email because it's quite a long email. We all read it and we loved it. Paridhi, send us long emails. But just to go quickly over it. Hi, I'm Paridhi and I'm from Dubai. I'm a huge fan of your podcast. So I'm going to just read the positive parts, right? Like this is what
yes.
This is what it's about. I discovered it only on Spotify 4 weeks back. This is great, man. We never hear from our Spotify fans or our, Ghana fans and our other fans. So this is cool. Send us over if you've discovered us through Amazon Podcasts or anything other of the streaming websites we're on. Being a Salman Khan fan, I was looking for podcasts about him, which is when I discovered you guys. I agree with Asim. I'll not read the rest. When you said that one of the biggest tragedies of Bollywood is when Janeman and Dawn released on the same day. Did you guys see there was like a little bit of a tweet from Shirish Kunder about Janeman and all that?
History will vindicate him.
Yeah. I had some people tweet it at me too. I think Faz also did.
Asim, what is this behavior?
And I was like, I don't think Shirish wants to be my friend anymore after the Mrs. Serial Killer podcast. The way I relate with Asim is amazing because we are both quite similar Bhai fans. I also love how there are so many Andaz Apna Apna references in your episodes. What I like about this podcast in comparison to other podcasts that I've listened to is that the podcast is only about the Khans. And that you have lived in India, know a lot about the cultural context. The amount of research that you guys put into every podcast is commendable. Sujoy, would you like to say about the amount of research you put into a podcast?
So I wake up at 11 for a 12 o'clock recording and I go through Wikipedia. That's my research.
Yeah.
No, but I'll say, Paridhi, we are a little bit older than, I think some of the people that listen to this podcast. So what we have are, things that we've registered by osmosis, basically. Because when you grow up in the culture and you follow Bollywood, you also follow the gossip, right? It's not, the two things are never separate. Even, the non-Indians that, watch Bollywood, eventually you'll all end up on the Bollywood blind item Reddit or whatever. There's a natural progress to these things. So
and
I think
forget watching just movies, we even watch VHSs of Lehre. That's how how much ingrained it is in our existence.
So, because we grew up in the 90s, we just remember a time when the Khans weren't, managed by PR gurus or whatever. So, it was just and these people would just say things, it wasn't, they had no filter, they had no long game plan, nothing. It was just, we are here, we are brash, and we are just gonna say whatever and do whatever. So we remember that time, and I think that's what you are mistaking for research is just basically us being fans.
And then she also says, this podcast really makes me laugh sometimes. This is because of Sujoy's singing skills. Sujoy does do riyaz every morning to do his SP
पानी में नमक डाल के gargle करता हूँ मैं.
Yeah. Could you guys please do a podcast on Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam and the Tiger series? Yes, I definitely want to do both of those.
Yeah.
Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam is really one that I think we need to tackle. It's kind of been bubbling, no?
We offered it to Pitu, but she preferred to do Hello Brother instead. So these are our friends.
Yeah.
Hum kya kare?
And the Tiger series, definitely, I mean, if I'm one of the hosts of a Khandaan podcast called Khandaan, a Salman Khan movie with Katrina Kaif where they're blowing up shit is definitely going to get covered one day or the other. So thank you, Paridhi from Dubai, for your lovely email. Then one more. I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher your name. Sramana from Atlanta. She also writes in Shramana. Okay. Hello folks, long time listener here. I was already a fan of Khandaan, but when I found out most of your recent ventures into non-Khan content overlap my interest. I think this is more of a Tolly Folly podcast episode than a Khandaan one. But I'll read it. Even though we're not the Tolly Folly podcast. I grew up with my mother loving Uttam Suchitra movies, with me sort of resenting them as I wanted to watch Hindi movies. Now I wish I had paid attention to him more. So when I listened to the Tolly Folly episodes, I thought of getting my mother to listen, but I don't know if she can handle hearing y'all talk about Uttam Kumar's hotness. I think that's all on Amrita here.
Shramana, I want you to know that what you're listening to on the podcast is actually me and Beth toning things down for like the sake of Sujoy's tender years. And we're trying not to embarrass him. So, yeah. But you know what? Like, we are always looking for more like Uttam, Suchitra, gossip and content. So if you have stuff that your mom's told you, then we would love to hear from you. And thank you so much for this letter. Like, it was really lovely. Like, we all were like passing it back and forth and reading it. And we don't get as much response for Tolly Folly as we do for Khandaan, obviously. So we really appreciate it when people respond to it.
Yeah.
Should I say what happened yesterday on the YouTube channel, Amrita?
Yes, go ahead.
So Amrita messaged me on Twitter saying there is a comment on our Tolly Folly episode on YouTube. Can you check if it's been, can you approve it? It seems like it's been flagged as spam. And I went and sent a screenshot to Amrita of exactly the comment. It was basically a URL which said virtualchatsgirlsonline.com. So that's the kind of feedback we're getting on Tolly Folly podcast. So this is really appreciated.
I hope you didn't delete that comment though, because we're entering into lockdown again. People will be lonely, and it would be nice to chat with nice girls. Okay, I'll continue. I'm more of a Soumitra Chatterjee fan, so if you ever decide to do a series on him, I'll be gladly listening. I look forward to your Bomkesh series, guys, by the way, I really loved the Bomkesh series. I was listening to the recent one about the Dibakar Banerjee one, and I was like, I need to revisit this because I made fun of that movie so many times. But it was, and you guys even got some really good feedback. Like the cast was even sharing it, right? If I'm not mistaken.
It was really nice, like Swastika Mukherjee and Meng Chang and a bunch of other people. And then Aditi Mittal also retweeted it. It was really nice of people to listen to it.
Yeah. No, it's quite good, and it's nice of them to appreciate it. I think everybody put in so much work for that movie, and still people appreciating the work. It feels nice, even if the movie was like a washout at the box office. As someone who discovered Turkish dramas known as Dizis earlier this year, I never thought I'll get to hear of them on the Khandaan. I want to share my impression of them. Unlike Amrita, I've stayed away from historicals. She talks a little bit more about Turkish dramas. We've passed this email to each other like, Mamta Kulkarni's Stardust cover back in the 90s. So we've all read it. It's lovely. Thank you so much for, sharing this. And Amrita, have you been watching any other Turkish dramas?
I've been watching a bunch, actually. I can't remember the names of any of them. Like, nothing that I've been, sitting down and watching from beginning to end. But I've been definitely watching, bits and pieces of a whole bunch of things. And I've sort of moved away from the whole historical things, Seamus Sharmana. So now I'm just watching fairly recent ones, and they're all pretty racy. And actually, I wanted to send you guys a clip because remember how I was telling you that a major part of these series is them just bathing each other all the time. And the other day I saw a police drama where this guy goes undercover to the prison, and there's actually a scene where he comes out of the prison shower and then has a fight in his bath towel, and I was just like, this is just another level of bathing. It just cracked me up, but I'll send you guys a clip for that. But yeah, Shramana, thank you so much for writing in, and also we will be having a series about Soumitra pretty soon because Beth is obsessed with him.
Yeah, I mean, lovely emails. If you want to send us an email, drop us one at upodcasting@gmail.com. We love hearing from you, and it really brightens up our day, getting a few emails like this, nice ones, and also, the name of the show is Khandaan, so we do, we're a family, we and our listeners, so, send us stuff. We can talk about it on the show, and it can, be a bit more collaborative that way, instead of us setting the agenda and then, me making you watch Trimurti. So, shall we get into the stuff we've been watching? I don't know. Was there any news? Were there any trailers we want to talk about?
There was The White Tiger.
When you come to India, you'll meet hundreds of millions of servants like me.
Driver, sorry, what's your name?
Sir, Balram, sir.
Balram, I got it. No worries. Dude, seriously, I got it. I love this song. Turn it up.
The desire to be a servant had been bred into me.
Let's start with White Tiger, because I assume, Amrita, because you have a book channel called Amrita by the Book on YouTube, that you have read The White Tiger?
Yes, and I will probably have a video up about it either this week or next week, depending upon my scheduling. But I was talking about it in my video, I knew that there was an adaptation, or there was talk of an adaptation, but we keep talking about these adaptations all the time. There's this adaptation of Shantaram that's supposed to be happening for years now, and Johnny Depp was attached, Meera Nair was going to direct it. It was all kinds of stuff. So I never actually knew that they were shooting this series or this film, and all of a sudden here it is, and it's a total surprise.
So it's directed by Ramin Bahrani, so not an Indian director.
Nope.
And it stars Priyanka Chopra, Rajkumar Rao, and introduces Adarsh Gaurav. And IMDb says it's the epic journey of a poor Indian driver who must use his wit and cunning to break free from servitude to his rich masters and rise to the top of the heap. Which sounds intriguing. It's releasing.
I'm going to say that when this movie comes out, if anybody from the right wing actually watches this movie, it is going to be an earthquake on Twitter. I'm kind of dreading the day that this thing comes out, because the book is just brutal about India, basically. So this book came out in 2008, and it basically talks about, caste discrimination, poverty, corruption, all sorts of things, that happens in India, gender violence, all sorts of things. And when it came out, there were a bunch of people who were muttering about this is just one of those elites who like to, talk bad about India. Why don't they like India? Blah, blah, blah. They're just white people in brown skin. They're such coconuts, blah, blah, blah. So but then, this is also a literary novel, it won the Booker Prize. Not a lot of people were reading it. Obviously, it's a pretty niche category, so to speak. So nothing much came off it then, but I feel like today, especially with Priyanka starring in it and it coming on Netflix, which is already under the scanner for making anti-India content, it has the possibility of snowballing into something really disgusting and vile.
It's coming out in January next year, isn't it?
Yeah, 22nd of January. And it was written by Aravind Adiga.
Yeah.
That's the book. So yeah, it looks interesting. I don't know if Priyanka is also producing it.
Yeah, I think she is.
But I think we've all been very impressed with how much she's been doing and how productive she's been doing. And Ava DuVernay is also an executive producer. So she's making the moves, man. Priyanka, go Priyanka, man. This second phase of her career might be a more interesting one than the first one. So it looks good. And quite an interesting pairing to have Priyanka and Rajkumar Rao together too, right?
Yeah.
What did you think, Sujoy, of the trailer?
Well, I haven't read the book, so I didn't know what to expect really, but it really punches hard. I thought what they're trying to achieve by showing off the ascension of this character called I think he's called Balram Halwai, the character played by Adarsh Gaurav, and it kind of rings brings me back memories of what content we've been watching about the whole struggle on the hustle of the Indian common man to rise to some sort of a prominence and not lead another just common life to be forgotten by everybody else. Like, we've watched Scam 1992, which is about Harshad Mehta, and we also watched Serious Men with Nawaz's character trying to hustle his way into, leading some sort of a meaningful life and bringing up his child to be significant in the society. So both of those sort of themes are look familiar, but I think with Netflix's backing and all the people who are involved in the making of this movie, I'm really looking forward to watching this.
And also, I mean, I've not read the book, but it also kind of reminded me of Parasite, the movie. So, I mean, I'm very intrigued by it. And I think I'm just also happy that there's new content coming, There's been already a bit in the last few weeks, and I think there was a bit of a drought period. And now we're getting a lot of new things. And even Ava DuVernay was mentioning Deepa Mehta's Funny Boy was also coming out in December on Netflix, which also has a trailer out. I think we can talk about it next time when there's maybe a full trailer. But it's interesting how Netflix is kind of expanding and collaborating, and I almost feel they are doing a better job than when the Hollywood studios came to India. This seems to be more organic, and they have a better approach of what will maybe work for them and what not. And I think the first few years have maybe been kind of a more experimental phase, which wasn't always very successful. Look at, Guinea with Sunny and all that stuff. But I think what's coming might be more interesting. So I'm quite excited about this one. The second trailer that dropped was Ludo.
Ludo is life and life is Ludo. आप जीतो या हारो, अल्टीमेटली सारे गोटियों को पोषना तो एक ही घर में है ना. Well, luck suck everyone.
Amrita, what did you think of that trailer?
I really liked it. Like, it seemed to have a certain energy, and I don't know, it was just very interesting after a year of just watching trailers about which I could not care less. This seemed like something that I might have fun watching, so that was nice.
So it's directed by Anurag Basu. I would say one of our favorites, right? Like, we love his work, I think. Yeah. All of us.
That was quite a surprise, though. Like, when the trailer ended and directed by Anurag Basu came in, and I was like, yeah, it does look like Anurag Kashyap, but thank God it's made by Anurag Basu,
Yeah, exactly. So IMDb calls it a dark comedy anthology, which was supposed to be center on unavoidable. What the hell is this? Okay, I can't read this. This is not English. 4 different stories set in a quintessential Indian metro. It stars Abhishek Bachchan, Aditya Roy Kapoor, Sania Malhotra, Fatima Sana Sheikh. So kind of a collaboration of the Dangal girls. Rajkumar Rao and Pankaj Tripathi, who's in pretty much everything now. And that comes out pretty soon, I think 12th of November. I'm really excited for this one. Like, I think I even tweeted, like, what is this feeling I feel after watching a trailer? It's actually excitement for something Bollywood comes out. And also, I'll be honest, like, I love what, White Tiger is doing and Deepa Mehta is doing and, Meera Nair is doing. But something about Bollywood just hits me differently. Like the way Anurag Basu is like connected with my soul. That this is going to hit me differently. And I'm just like so excited that they're doing, and it's so kinetic, the trailer, so much is going on and there's humor and music. Even the few songs that came out are really good. There's way too much naked Aditya Roy Kapoor, but that seems to be his shtick now. It's. What did you think, Sujoy?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm definitely more excited about this because I really want Abhishek to do well in this movie.
Yes.
And, especially with Scam 1992 almost stealing the thunder of his about to be released, The Big Bull, that's coming out on Hotstar later this month. I think I really want Ludo to be the film that redeems him in some way, because he's already had Breathe season 2 released during the lockdown and that didn't really take off, and now The Big Bull, and I hope Ludo does wonders for him.
Yeah, I was just kind of worried about the Rajkumar Rao track, because that one feels a bit too fanish, like Shah Rukh Khan's fan. Like it seems a bit too heightened. I don't know if Rajkumar Rao can pull it off, that kind of village boy extravagant sensibility. I'm worried about that part, but I'm hoping that
he kind of did that in Bareli Ki Barfi though, right? When he transformed the characters between the meek character and then he becomes the pretend Bawa character, I think what my concern is that Rajkumar Rao would probably overshadow everybody else. And that's concerning for me, but we'll see. It's just a speculation based on the trailer.
Yeah, and also the track with Sanya Malhotra and Aditya Roy Kapoor, where they're just like constantly in bed, and it reminded me of what was it? Salame Ishq, where
John Abraham and
Vidya Balan, where it's just like they're constantly in bed and then somebody dies or almost dies. We need to cover Salame Ishq. I think we're going to have a good fun laughing with that one. Yeah. That was such a bad movie.
When the day the Ludo film trailer dropped, though, like thirsty Twitter tweets came out with all of, half-naked Aditya Roy Kapoor all over the place.
Well, at least he has that going for him,
Yeah. Beta gym jata hai,
But I mean, if it's working for thirsty Twitter, it works, man. Who am I to judge? We're in a pandemic. Get your kinks from wherever you can get. Get satisfied the way you can. And if you can't, there's a good, useful comment on the Toddy Folly podcast that can help you out.
Oh, you bastard.
Shall we move on to some of the stuff we've been watching? Sujoy, man, I'm quite curious about Mirzapur because I've not seen any of the first season, and I also have no inclination to watch it. But I feel a lot of people are very happy with season 2. So, where are you on Mirzapur?
जो आया है वो जाएगा भी बस मर्जी हमारी होगी
I think I expected it to be more of the same. So season 1 was what I consider to be Gangs of Wasseypur light, with it's about factions and the son being unhappy with how being ambitious of taking the throne of Mirzapur. The Mirzapur gang cartel is currently being ruled by this character called Kalin Bhaiya, which is played by Pankaj Tripathi, and that was kind of what season 1 was all about. There was these two characters played by Ali Fazal and Vikrant Massey, and they are brothers, and they are working under Kalin Bhaiya, and they sort of betray Kalin Bhaiya, or things happen, and there's a lot of shootout. And as I said before, like Ali Fazal basically gets buffed up and learns all the galis, and that was pretty much what was season 1 all about. And hence with the whole Gangs of Wasseypur fandom as well, this sort of spun into its own sort of fandom, and they were very, very attached to it, and they all kept hyping about when is season 2 coming, and season 2 I think did it. Like, for me, I am not a big fan of season 1, but I wanted to see what they would do with it, and they sort of spun into a different direction. It wasn't exactly more of the same. It brought in more politics of the region. It expanded the canvas. It brought in more new characters to expand on the story and the consequences of what happens in season 1, rather than rely on flashbacks and bring back old characters that the people loved in season 1. So it sort of expanded in those areas, and I think when I see the IMDb ratings, season 2 has been lower on the numbers than season 1. I think the people liked more season 1 because, again, it was familiar to what they had seen in Gangs of Wasseypur, and season 2 did things differently, and that's what I like about it. There are certain elements which could have been done better, like subplots that they spend way too much time with, that could have been, that sort of take away the focus from the characters that I want to focus in. And some production quality is not as good, like the special effects and the explosions and all of that is a bit shoddy. But overall, I quite enjoyed Mirzapur, and I would like to recommend, if people are into that sort of, heartland violence sort of a genre, then Mirzapur 2 delivers for me.
Amrita, any interest in Mirzapur?
Nope.
Not even for Ali Fazal?
No.
I was tempted when I was seeing so much positivity about it, and then I think Netflix is really pushing it. Netflix India is really pushing it. It's Netflix. No, sorry, Prime is really pushing it. And there was some recap videos of season 1. And I watched the recap video and I was like, Amrita, I was like, nope, it's not happening. I'm not going to be watching this, unfortunately. Yeah. But I'm happy for actors like Ali Fazal and, Vikrant Massey and Pankaj Tripathi, that they are getting kind of, a lot of love and praise for these kind of roles, because they don't necessarily get this for theatrical releases and movies and stuff like that. They're not there yet. They're kind of at the precipice, but they're not there yet. And I think that's kind of really cool for them.
I think I'd also like to mention, the female characters in season 2 have really grown by leaps and bounds, and they sort of create this because it's a patriarchal society. They are not exactly at the forefront, because that's how the reality is. It's based in UP Bihar, but yet there is a strong presence of them, and they are the ones, no spoilers here, but they are the ones who kind of turned the tables in season 2. And shout out to Rasika Dugal, who we've seen in other series, but she is really strong in season 2 and she's great. Shweta Tripathi, who we saw in the other Vikrant Massey movie on Netflix. What was that space movie? Cargo, was it? She's also in season 2, and she is great as well. Her character gets a redemption, sort of. Shiba Chadda, who we've seen in numerous movies as the auntie character, but even in the small roles that she gets in this, she's really great. Really, really great.
Nice. I'm glad you're enjoying it, and I'm glad lots of people are enjoying it. Amrita, you and me watched a movie together.
You
did, right?
A nameless movie?
You ended not watching it, right?
No, I didn't get time, but I will definitely, because it's got the makers who are involved with it. I think one of them is Rajiv Menon, right? I really like his work, so I'll probably end up watching it sometime this week.
Yeah, so so this is an anthology. It's we're gonna call it PPK to be easy. Amrita, you want to pronounce the name once again, or should I go for it and give people a laugh?
You should go for it, Asim. Let's hear you say it.
I was gonna go with Puthum Pudhai Kaalai.
And he's not even trying to be funny. My pronunciation is much better. Like I've said this before, I say things, I understand Tamil, but I can't really speak Tamil. But I think it's called Puthum Pudhai Kaalai.
Yeah, but you're adding letters that are not in the word. Like, how can I figure this out, yeah? Like,
hello?
Enna?
More than 21 days ku lockdown announce பண்ணிருக்காருமா.
இருபத்தோரு நாள் 21 days.
So it's an anthology of 5 stories. It's directed by every story. One of the it's so 5 directors. You have Sudha Kongara, Gautam Menon, Rajiv Menon, Karthik Subbaraj, and Suhasini. I hope I pronounced those at least correctly. And it's like 5 different stories in lockdown, right? And this is a Tamil movie. Amrita, what did you think of PPK?
I had a really good time. So I know there's a lot of hate for this anthology on Tamil Twitter, and I don't really get it. Yeah, like they seem to really loathe it, and I don't really understand why. Like, it's a little uneven. Like, it's not high cinema by any stretch of the imagination, but it's definitely better than some of the things that have come out in the recent past, and a couple of them are really good. So I don't really understand why Tamil Twitter has been going to town over it, but I started watching it actually because of Asim, because Asim and Isa were watching it and they were having a good time, and it was fun.
Yeah. I really like it, and I think this is also kind of my worry about Ludo to a certain degree. I generally don't like anthology movies. Like, I've never liked them. Since when the trend started, it's never been my thing. And I also don't like when, 4 stories, separate stories then intersect, like Yuva and Amoros Peras. It's just like a format I've never really liked. Especially one of the reasons is that I feel there's bound to be 1 or 2 stories that just don't work. And I think with PPK most of them work. And all of the stories are in kind of in lockdown, shot in lockdown, and it also really feels that they were probably working with a very small crew. And technically, I think one movie almost felt like it was shot on phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they definitely had some constraints that they were working with, but I generally enjoyed at least the first half. I really enjoyed of them. So I don't know, do you want to go quickly through story by story?
So I haven't watched the last one, Miracle. I haven't watched that one.
Right.
But I know that is the favorite for a great many people.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, like a lot of people have told me like they like that one the best. So I'll watch it probably today. But my favorite was the first one but that one is like because it's charming. It's charming as hell. It's Jayaram and Urvashi, and I'm a Malayali. I grew up on, like, I won't say that I grew up that much on Malayalam cinema, but I did watch Jayaram and Urvashi when I was a child, and it is lovely to see them in this new world and like making these kinds of films that are so different from the kinds that I remember from my childhood. And also like and this is something that Asim, you probably didn't get, but like there are these little things in that particular version where Jayaram has pictures of his late wife on the wall, and it's actually his real life wife, who is Parvati, who's this Malayalam actress for whom I have a great deal of affection. And then his younger self is being played by his son Kalidas, and then the Urvashi's younger self is being played by Priyadarshan and Lizzie's daughter, who is amazing. Like she's like I mean,
she's so good. She was such an amazing like presence. Like I was like blown away by her. She was so good.
And they have like such great chemistry. Like Jairam and Urvashi have amazing chemistry, but also the younger versions have just amazing chemistry. And also it's just very heartwarming, and it was like a proper rom-com shot, and I really enjoyed the hell out of it. I think the one that I didn't care for was the Suhasini one, which I have this problem with Suhasini's filmmaking. It always seems like a PSA to me, like an after-school special. Like she seems to want to need to put in some sort of social messaging in her films. And I'm like, you can actually just tell the story and let people take whatever message they want from it. Like you don't need to put in like, please contact your nearest organization. Like you don't need to make that kind of a film all the time. But also as I was watching this, I was just thinking, like people talk about nepotism in Bollywood and stuff, but your head would explode if you saw South Indian films, and especially this one, because it's just like everything, like everybody is just related to everybody in this anthology, like Suhasini's was written, Suhasini's married to Mani Ratnam, and she wrote the script for that thing, and then every single woman in that shot is a family member. It's her aunt, her niece, like it's literally her entire family. So that kind of stuff just like leaps out of the page for me when I'm like watching it. What about you, Asim? Like, what was your favorite and your least favorite?
Just to get back to the one you're talking about, the Coffee Anyone, right? That's the one. That is the one. I'm surprised that Mani Ratnam was involved, because I almost felt this was amateurish the way it was made. Like, it just seemed very... Like, the direction was off. The editing was off. I felt... Like, obviously, because they're shooting this in, in lockdown and people are not in the same location, it just feels very artificial to then have Shruti Hassan's character, like, calling in through Skype. It just felt like it was just not well made for me. So I'm really surprised that these are, like, these very, very talented people that are making this. It seemed more like a first draft than a finished product for me. And it didn't work. I also didn't like the next one that much, the reunion one, which where it's about this girl kind of getting over like a cocaine habit, but they're treating the cocaine like heroin, which is also just very confusing in the way Indian people deal with drugs, because they have clearly no idea which drug does what effect. Like, and I don't want to like show my hands or my cards here, but this is not how cocaine works, people. Like, this is.
I also had the same thought as I was watching it.
Asim would disagree with this.
Yeah, this is not. That didn't work, but I think the reunion one had a little thumbnail image at the end, which kind of like, which was kind of like touching to me, that these actors know each other for a very long time. Although I don't know if that was a doctored image or something like that. I assume it wasn't. And if I thought that was kind of cool, but for me the best ones were the first two, honestly. The Jayaram Urvashi one was the best one out of all of them. I agree with you. The charm of these actors together, the chemistry that they have. I didn't know that they worked a lot together, Jayaram and Urvashi, back in the day. Is that they're
I don't know if they've worked a lot together. Like they were, so Jayaram and Parvati, who's his actual real life wife, they were like one of the big couples of Malayalam cinema at the time, and they worked a lot, and then they got married. But Urvashi was, I've seen her mostly with Mohanlal more than anybody else, but she was, she's a comedy legend, like, and everybody knows her in Malayalam and Tamil cinema.
Yeah. No, it was really cool to also just the kind of like the filmmaking tricks they use, that love makes you young, that I thought was really fun. Like, and I think it could have been expanded, but you're trying to do something in 20 minutes. And I thought it was very like, it really kind of tugged at the heartstrings, which I really, really liked. I really liked the second one with Ritu Verma and MS Bhaskar. I don't know if MS Bhaskar is a well-known actor or... but I don't know, it just worked for me. It was a very nice short story, and it had like a bit of sadness and tragedy and a lot of mention.
And very true to life, right? Like when she says that, my father's a good man, he would do anything for his daughters. And he says, my problem is that he didn't do enough for mine. That was like an amazing scene for me. Like I thought that was like really on point.
And it kind of affected me as a dad having a daughter. And then also, like, just the physicality of MS Bhaskar reminded me of my grandfather, who is also a very wise, erudite kind of man into reading and always had these good advice. And he was also very... like here he's playing like a scientist, and he makes it a point to let people know he's a scientist, but he also has a very kind of like a bubbling anger and frustration, which all of these elements reminded me of my Nana, and it was really touching. I really liked that storyline a lot. Reunion, the Miracle one, that also didn't work as well for me, because it has like a very kind of comedy waiting for Godot to helpless idiots kind of thing. And there was this ending message about, just be happy in the state you are in, and which just didn't work for me, like philosophically. But I don't want to get into it too much because you haven't seen it. But I strongly recommend watching PPK. It's on Prime, and I think it will make you happy. And I think with the anthology things, it's cool because you just watch 20 minutes and you can switch it off and then come back to it, So that's kind of cool too. And these are very talented filmmakers. They've been really working in constraints. And weirdly, also just generally, a lot of A.R. Rahman references in all of these movies, no?
Yeah.
Which is also funny because they start singing a song from...
Oh my God. So that was really amazing. Like in the reunion, or that, he chooses that particular song. So the song that he chooses, there's this point in the film, in the shot where she's having a sort of a meltdown, and he starts singing to calm her down. And the song that he chooses is Ooh La La La. And I was like, that is just perfect writing, because for that generation, and like that song is just perfect for that scene, because I remember what that was like, like there's so many things in this anthology that made me think like, are they taking notes from my life? Because it was so relatable to me, like in the first shot where Urvashi's talking about like how she used to lie to her parents and then just go out with the boys and have all this, crazy fun. And like she's talking... and then like in this one, the fact that he chooses like ooh la 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 to sing, and then she immediately goes like like she knows exactly like every line and every pitch of that song. Like all of that is so true to life, it's lovely.
And it was also funny because this is not necessarily a soundtrack or a movie that Hindi audiences have really kind of, remembered that much. I remember... because this kind of came out with a South Indian version and a Hindi version, right?
Yeah.
What was it even called in Hindi? I don't even remember the name.
Sapne?
Sapne. Was that the one?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And I don't think like I was always a huge A.R. Rahman fan, so I remember the soundtrack and I listened to it a lot. But I think the general Hindi audience, this might be one that slipped under their radar. So it was just like funny for me that, this was a really big thing in South India, where like, North India just kind of forgot about it. So that was kind of cool that song came up. So yeah. I would definitely recommend it. I think you too, right?
Yeah, I would.
Great. I think we're done with this episode then, right? Guys, this was fun. Where can people find you online, Amrita?
You can find me on Twitter at AmritaIQ, and also you can check out my YouTube channel, which will have a video about the white tiger, among other things, on it pretty soon. And it's called Amrita by the Book.
Sujoy?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at 9e3k.
I'm at Asim Bernie. You can drop us an email like our lovely listeners did at youpodcasting@gmail.com. I will also be appearing on the Exploding Helicopter podcast, which I'll give a link to when it's out, I think in a couple of weeks. I brought my Khandaan-ness to Exploding Helicopter, and we actually reviewed Bazi, which is a movie we have not covered on the Khandaan podcast yet. So it's fun. It was fun. So you should check that out. Also, I think the file of the Yek Fest podcast has been delivered to us. So I'll check with Sujoy and maybe we can upload it to our YouTube channel so you can see my face, which I find daunting, but hell, let's go with it. I was appearing about podcasting in Bollywood, and there were good friends from Bollywood is for Lovers. Aaron was on there and Manish was on there. So a lot of good friends. It was a good chat. We'll try to upload that too. So you should subscribe to the Khandaan podcast YouTube channel, and also obviously listen to the Tolly Folly podcast. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm waiting for one last episode, or there's two more left, guys?
There's one last.
Just the one, yeah.
Okay, great. So that's on the You Podcast Bollywood edition website. So I'll add it to the show notes. Thanks for listening, guys. And next episode is Trimurti.
Khandaan.